Hello. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Okay. So, before we start the lecture, I would like to know that whether you have any doubts in the mid-semester in the sessional paper. Any doubts that you have in the sessional paper? So first, we'll discuss those doubts, and then we'll proceed with today's lecture. So, anybody is having any doubt in the sessional question paper? From my portion, okay. Right now, I won't be discussing what source portion. From my portion, is anybody having any doubt? Hello. Yes, everyone. Please let me know. Anyone is having any doubts? So, shall we proceed with the lecture then? Do you want me to show you the paper if you do not recall any questions? Is it so? Okay. Okay. Let me share the screen. Okay. So, from my portion, these were the questions that you had. So, I suppose most of the questions were very. Yes. Is it visible? Is my screen visible to everyone? Okay. So, I suppose that the first question. These questions were easy to solve, right? Whether to identify the classification problem and what is the reward based learning technique, right? So I'll scroll through the paper. Just let me know that if you are facing any doubt in any of the question, if you recall any of the question that you are facing in doubt. So just let me know. Okay, deadly disease. Okay, this question, yes. In this question, you are given that there is a machine learning model that predicts a deadly disease among patients, and it is given that only 1% of the population is affected by this particular disease. And the model is passed the symptoms as features. So you are passing symptoms of the disease as features, as well as the labels to the model to do the prediction. And after being trained on that particular model, the model provides an accuracy of 99%. And which of the following statement are true? So, if you recall, we discussed something in the classroom called imbalanced data. Yes or no? If you recall something, imbalanced data. So, this is actually an example of imbalanced data. If you see, only 1% of the population contains is affected by the disease. Rest of the 99% population is not affected by the disease. So, even if a model provides an accuracy of 99%, the model will be imbalanced. So, you cannot, in case of imbalanced data, we discussed that we cannot take accuracy as the measure to evaluate the model, right? Yes, it is safe to say no to everyone, right? Yes. In that case also, in this question, we are given four options. So let us discuss all the options. The model accuracy states that it is a good model, but as we discussed, this is an imbalanced data. That's why we cannot make accuracy as a measure to measure the model performance, right? So this statement is false, right? Then accuracy is not a good measure to estimate the performance of the model, right? Then mistakenly predicting false negative is not very harmful for the given data set. False negative data means what? What will be the false negative cases in this particular data set? What will be the false negative case? Yes, healthy. Yes. No, no, false negative. Okay, if you are considering positive as cancer and negative as non-cancer, so sorry, I'm just assuming non-cancer, then false negative will be already is unhealthy, but it is predicted as healthy. Okay, that will be risky, yes or no? Yes. Okay. So in this case, mistakenly predicting false negative is not very harmful for the given data set. Is healthy predicting as non-healthy? Okay. So in this case, one person, this model is actually predicting what? Cancer, unhealthy. It is actually predicting unhealthy patients. So all the positive will be unhealthy, right? And negative will be healthy patients. So predicting, so the question is, mistakenly predicting false negative is not very harmful for the given data set. False negative cases will be unhealthy, predicting unhealthy as healthy. Yes or no? Sorry, wait a minute. False negative. Yes, predicting unhealthy as healthy will be false negative. Yes or no? Yes? Yes, right? So this will be harmful for the given data set, yes or no? Okay, so this is also, this is false. And the last one is a poor model that predicts not sick will also provide a good accuracy in this case. Yes. So already one of the student mentioned in the chat box also that even if the model predicts unhealthy in most of the cases, then also the accuracy will be very high. So this data set, since the data set is actually imbalanced, so we cannot consider accuracy as a measure. Another two measures that we have in this case is, which are the two measures, that other measures that we'll be considering in the case of imbalanced data set? Can anybody recall? Yes, precision and recall, right? Yeah. Yes, precision and recall measures we'll be considering in the case of imbalanced data set, right? So everyone is clear with this particular question? Okay. All right. Yes. So I'll be scrolling for the next question. Just let me know if you have any doubt. What about others? Others are also clear with this? Yes or no? Okay. You are. So in this particular question, the answer is 0.117 and 32. Okay. So I hope that most of you were able to solve this particular question for confusion matrix. Yes. Okay. So we know that whenever we are trying to maximize P of y given x, that is a discriminative model. We discussed in the classroom about discriminative and generative model. In generative model, we'll be trying to maximize the joint probability, while in discriminative model, we will be trying to maximize the conditional probability. Yes or no? Okay. Yes, this. Anybody is having any doubt in this one? I suppose no one is having any doubt in the question about linear regression, yes or no? Because most of the question, I think you will be clear with this, right? We had discussed in this classroom also that lasso regression provides zero value, as the parameter value will turn into zero in case of lasso regression. That's why it will be used for feature selection, while in other it won't be. And MSE loss function is convex, so it will be providing always providing global minima instead of local minima, right? And higher value of learning rate does not provide higher value of convergence to minima, because in that case, that is the possibility that you might lose the chance to reach the minimum, right? So were you able to solve this question about linear regression, where you were given certain values of h of, yes, overshooting, yes, right, overshooting. So answer for this question was this one. Okay, right. So see, we are given whatever what we are given is we are given the initial value of parameters, both the initial values. So we already know what is the h of x. H of x is our hypothesis function. Okay, this is our hypothesis function that we have, and h of x is given as theta 0 plus theta 1 into x. Okay, and we are given a data set. The data set that is given to us is in this form, where x is your input and y is your predicted value. That is the output, and we are also provided with the learning rate alpha, which is 0.001 learning rate that you have. So what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to find after one iteration what is the updated value of theta 0 and theta 1. After one iteration means what? After performing an first iteration. So first what you will do? First you will calculate the first you will calculate what is the model predicting the value for a given data set. Model prediction. So for each value, for h of x, you will calculate h of x for each of the x values, for first, for second, third and fourth, right, where you will replace the values with, where will be 0.1 plus 0.1 into first x value is what, 1, right, we'll be replacing with 1, sorry, yes, just a minute. Okay, so here h of 1 into x is equals to theta 0 plus theta 1 into x, which is 0.1 plus 0.1 into 1. Similarly for all the cases of h of x, right, h of 3 of x and h of 4 of x. And so on, you will calculate for all the value, for all the x value, you will calculate what is the model prediction. What is the model prediction? Then you have to put this value in the j of theta formula, okay, which is the loss function. Now you will calculate the loss value for the given data set. Even if you don't calculate, I don't think that would make much difference, but let us do that. So j of theta is equals to, what is the formula for loss function? 1 upon 2m sigma I is equals to 1 to m h of x minus y the whole square. That is your loss function. And if you recall, what was the updating formula for theta 0 and theta 1? What was the update formula? Theta 0 is equals to theta 0 minus alpha into summation of I is equals to 1 to m h of x minus y. And in case of theta 1, it was theta 1 minus alpha sigma I is equals to 1 to m h of x minus y into xi. Sorry, into xi. Yes or no? Do you recall this? So can you calculate the updated value of theta 0 and theta 1 through this? Yes or no? Through the first iteration, you will be updating the value of theta 0 and theta 1. So you will be putting the value of h of x. So h of x in each cases, for first instance, you will calculate what is the model output, for second instance, third instance and fourth instance. And then you will subtract and put this here and replace the value of alpha as well, right? Okay. So is it clear how you can calculate? So you are also asked the cost function. So you have to calculate the cost, right? Yes. So everyone is clear with this question, yes or no? Now is it clear? Okay. Okay, next one. So if you are having any doubt in this question, any of the question, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can also ask in the chat box. So I hope this was also clear to everyone. Gain ratio is an attribute selection method that is used in C4.5 algorithm, and in CART we have Gini index as an attribute selection method, right? And overfitting in the decision tree, if number of training samples are too high, it is wrong. If number of training samples are very less, then there is a possibility of overfitting, right? And which one is more successful? We have discussed in the classroom. There are two methods to solve the overfitting problem. One is pre-pruning and one is post-pruning. if you recall. Yes or no? We had discussed pre-pruning in the pre-pruning method. We had discussed that we can estimate, we can keep an initial value of maximum number of nodes that a particular leaf node can have, or the maximum depth of the decision tree, and that is pre-pruning. And post-pruning will allow the tree to grow till the end, and then we'll perform the pruning operation on that particular tree. Yes. Yes. Feature scaling, if you recall, in the lab session we had discussed feature scaling. That is scaling of the features. The For example, if you want to, for example, we had two features, age and salary. And age had the value between 0 to 100, and salary might be having value 10,000 to 20,000 or something like that. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to scale all the features in the similar scale. For example, we want to scale age in 0 to 1 as well as salary in 0 to 1. That is what feature scaling is, right? If you recall this one. So in the case of decision tree, feature scaling is not required. Okay. Okay, next one. I hope this was also clear. And first step of gradient descent is to initialize with some random values, not with 0 all the time. Yes. Okay, next one. So the option 3 is correct. I suppose you know how to form the decision tree for this particular Boolean function. Yes or no? Yes. Is anybody having any doubt in how to form the decision tree for this particular question? Okay. What about others? Okay. Yes. So you are given a Boolean function here, that is negation of A and B. So you can draw the table, right? A and B, 0 0 1 1 0 1 0 1, and negation of A would be 1 1 0 0, and B is 0 1 0 1, right? So negation of A and B is uh, 0 1 0 0, right? So through this you can draw a decision tree. You can check that whichever value gives you maximum information gain, so in this A will give you maximum information gain, so A will be your root node, and then you'll split the data according to the A value. So A is 0 and A is 1. So you can observe that if A is always 0, then what is the value of A is always 1, then the value of A, negation of A given A and B is always 0. Oh, sorry. While when A is 0, there are two cases in case of B. Either B is 0 or B is 1. And in both the cases, you'll get different outputs. Yes or no? Now is it clear, Krishil? How to solve this one? Okay. Okay, next one. Okay, I suppose this is directly implementing through split information formula, right? So you have to implement this particular question. You have to perform this operation of this particular question using split information formula. If you recall, we had discussed the split information formula in the classroom. Yes. Yes, the answer is 0.65. Okay. Next question is also about best split according to Gini index and state the Gini index value as well. So in this, you have to calculate the Gini index for gender as well as vehicle type, right? So here we have only two values for gender, male and female, and in vehicle type also we have only two values, family and sports. But for example, if we had three values, then what are we supposed to do in that case? Anyone? Suppose we have three values for vehicle type. What are we supposed to do in that case? Okay. I'm what I'm trying to say is Gini index in whenever we are trying to create a Gini tree decision tree using Gini index as an attribute selection method. Uh, in this attribute selection method, mostly binary split will be there. Okay, the split will be binary. So in here we have only gender. In the case of gender, we have two values, male and female. While in case of vehicle type also we have two values. For example, in vehicle type we had three values. Then what were we supposed to do? Since we have to create binary split, then what were we supposed to do in the case of vehicle type? Suppose had three values. That is my question. Is it clear? Yes, in pairs we'll be creating subsets. Yes. So everyone is clear with that, right? More levels? No, we'll be creating subset. So if you recall, in the classroom we had discussed that suppose we have, for example, suppose we are having income. In the case of income, we have high, low, and medium. Okay, three values we are having, high, low, and medium. So what we'll do, we'll first create subsets of the attribute value. So what are the subsets of the attribute value? One is empty set, null set, and one is a complete set. Okay, high, low, and medium both. Then we have multiple subset: high, low, medium, high. Right? Such subsets will be there. So what we'll be doing, and we have single set also, high, low, and medium. Right? So we'll create different combination. For example, high and low medium, we'll create this as a first combination, and we'll check what is the Gini index value. If we choose this as a combination to split the data, then we'll choose another combination to split our data, and similarly we'll choose a third combination to split our data. Whichever combination gives you least Gini index, that will be chosen as your splitting criteria. Right? Yes or no? Is it clear? Yes. Okay. Fine. So next question is, which of the following is true in the context of decision tree classifier? Entropy is more complex than in compared to Gini index. Yes. In case of entropy, we are calculating the log based information, while in case of Gini index, we have square based information. So it is entropy is little bit more complex as compared to Gini index, and Gini index considered binary split for each attribute, right? And the minimum value of Gini index is zero point 0.5 and maximum value is 0.1. That is false. The maximum value of Gini index is zero point 0.5, if you recall. The formula of Gini index was, what was the formula of Gini index? 1 minus P of I the whole square, summation of P of I the whole square. So if P of I is 1 and 0, summation of P of I the whole square. So minimum value will be 0. Minimum value will be 0. But in case 0.5 plus 0.5 the whole square it is given, then it will be 0.5. The output Gini index value will be 0.5. So maximum value that it can have is 0.5. Right? Okay, next one. So how many split points can be generated? So the value answer is 4. So how are we going to solve this question? Generating the split points? Yes, first we will be sorting the data. Yes, first we will sort the data, and wherever there is a discontinuity, okay, discontinuity in the class, that point will be chosen to split the information. So for example, 10 is positive, then we have 30 as positive, 40 is also positive, 50 is negative, and 50 negative, 60 and 90 positive, right? So wherever there is discontinuity, first discontinuity that we have observed is first split point, then we have another split point over here, second, third split point over here, third, and the fourth split point, that is this one, that is fourth. Okay, so we have total 4 split points. So for each split point, that is, we'll create an average. 40 plus 50 by 2 will create an average. For this split point, we'll measure what is the information gain. Similarly, for the next, we'll measure the information gain, third will measure the information gain, and whichever gives you maximum information gain, that will be chosen as your splitting point. Okay, in your node. Is it clear to everyone? This point is clear, I suppose. Yes. We can also discretize with range. Okay, based on range you want to discretize, like for greater than, okay, are you talking about ordinal? Is it a ordinal? Yes, right. Okay, splitting point, right. That is what I'm saying. So for greater than 45, that will be in the right, for the right node, and less than 45, that will be in the left node. That is the discretizing with the range, right? Okay. So everyone is clear with this? So these were from my part. I'll not be discussing with the sir's part. So from my part, these were the questions. So I suppose everyone is clear with all the questions. So now we'll proceed with today's lecture, where we'll be discussing somewhat more about the overfitting in decision tree learning, and we'll also discuss about regression tree. So far we have discussed in the classroom is classification tree, where the output was yes or no, such kind discrete kind of output was there. But in case now we'll be discussing about regression tree, which will be having continuous values in the output. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, let me share the screen. So before we proceed forward, let us just revise once more. So we were in the previous lecture we were discussing about overfitting in decision tree. Okay, overfitting in decision tree, and overfitting in decision tree will be a function of depth of the tree. Okay, function of depth of the tree. So in the case of regression, if you recall, in the case of linear regression, we had discussed that if the function is very complex, then it is likely that the function is overfitting the model, right? So in there is an theory that what we'll be choosing is if two models we have, if we have two models, and both the model have similar generalization error. Generalization error means what? There are two types of errors. What is generalization error? Is error on testing data. Okay, error on testing data, that is generalization error. And whichever model is less complex, that is, we'll always go for the model which is simpler in terms of our function. So in case of linear regression also, we had discussed that if the model is fitting the data too well, that is the model is very complex, then it is possible that it is overfitting the model. So in this case also, in the case of decision tree, overfitting is a function of depth of the tree. So if the depth of the tree is very high, if we have more number of nodes in more number of leaf nodes, and the depth of the tree is very high, then it is possible that the decision tree model that you have generated is overfitting your data. Okay, it is overfitting your data. So in order to overcome the overfitting, what are the cases in which overfitting can occur? First case is there is a noise in the data set. Okay, so for example, there is noise in the data set, then it is possible that overfitting can take place in your model generation. And the second case is smaller number of instances during training. So if we have less number of instances while training, then it is possible that your model will overfit the data. Okay, these are the two conditions in which your model can overfit your data. Now, to overcome the overfitting, so in the previous lecture we saw both the cases with the PPT, where noise can occur and in the less number of data. Okay, so we discussed some of the techniques to overcome overfitting. One was pre-pruning and post-pruning. What is pruning? Pruning is actually the process of removing certain nodes in your decision tree. That is the process of cutting down your tree. That is the process of pruning. So we are converting your complex function into simpler one. How will be converting your complex decision tree into simpler one? By pruning your tree. Okay, that is what we'll be doing. So there are two methods to perform the pruning. One is pre-pruning and another is post-pruning. So in the case of pre-pruning, we discussed what is the case of pre-pruning. We'll be keeping certain conditions. For example, in practical implementation, what you can do is you can assign maximum depth of the tree. So maximum depth of the tree, if you're assigning as 3, then it is possible that your tree building will stop whenever the depth is equal to 3. So it will create a simpler decision tree for your data set. Okay. Another parameter that you can assign is maximum samples in a leaf node. Okay. So for example, if you are assigning a maximum sample, if your in your leaf node to be of 7, to be of value of 7, then it is possible that if your leaf node contains 6 number of samples, 6 number of samples, then it will not perform further splitting of the data. Okay, it will stop the splitting there. So you can also assign maximum samples in your leaf node to perform the splitting. So you will stop the further splitting of your data set if the maximum samples in your leaf node is less than your assigned criteria, right? And there are other maximum number of leaf node in your data set. So if you are assigning that maximum number of leaf node is to be of certain value, so for example 30 is your maximum number of leaf node that should be there in your data set, then the model generation will stop after generating 30 number of leaf node. Okay, I suppose pre-pruning is clear to everyone, right? Yes or no? Shall we proceed with the post-pruning? Okay, so now the next method that we have is post-pruning method. So in the case of post-pruning, what is post-pruning method is you will allow the tree to be built to its maximum length. Okay, maximum depth it will you will allow, that is you will allow it to overfit your data, and then after it is overfitting, after the overfitting has been performed, what you will do, you will use certain methods to cut down to prune the tree to make the model less complex. Okay, make the decision tree less complex. So in this case we discussed some of the methods, if you recall. First method that we had discussed is reduce error pruning. And another method that we had discussed is rule-based pruning. Rule post pruning, I guess. Okay. Okay. So in case of reduce error pruning, what we were doing is, let us see the PPT for. Okay, so in case of reduce error pruning, we were after the tree has grown to its full length, what we were doing is we were selecting certain subtrees and we were pruning that particular subtree. So after pruning that particular subtree, if the accuracy of the model is increased, and we will replace this subtree with the maximum. So for example, here in this case, what we are doing, the most common class that is visible in that particular subtree, that will be replaced in the place of subtree. So in this case, the most common class that we'll be seeing is class B, right? So we'll replace that particular subtree with that particular leaf node, that is class node, right? So after performing the replacement, if the accuracy of the particular decision tree has increased, then we'll continue with the pruning of that particular subtree. Otherwise, we'll stop the pruning. Otherwise, we'll not prune that particular subtree. Only if it is increasing the accuracy of the model, only then we'll perform the pruning operation. And how will we measure the accuracy of that particular data, that particular tree? We'll be using validation data, right? If you recall, we had already discussed initially in the case of machine learning that we'll be having certain data assigned to training, certain to test, and to validation. Yes, then validation data will be utilizing for model, checking the model performance and to improve the model. Yes or no? Do you recall this? We had already discussed this in the initial lectures of machine learning. Yes or no? Okay. So what we'll be doing? So we'll be for example, in the case of this particular decision tree that you can see, we'll be replacing the particular subtree with the most common class in the subtree. So here the most common class is class B. So we'll be replacing this particular subtree with that particular leaf node, class B. Suppose class A was the most common class in this particular subtree, then it would have been replaced by class A. Then we'll check the accuracy of the model on the validation data. If the accuracy of the decision tree increases, then we'll continue with the pruning that we have performed. Otherwise, we'll stop the pruning. Otherwise, we'll keep the subtree as it is. Okay, this is the first method of post pruning method. Then we have another method. So this is clear, right? After this, we had discussed one more method, that is rule-based pruning. Okay. Just a minute. Okay, so another method that we have is rule post pruning. In this method, what we are doing is we are converting your decision tree, that whatever decision tree that you have, in the form of rules. Okay, you will be having a precondition and post condition. So, for example, suppose this is a decision tree that you have. Let me show you. Okay, since the example is not present, let us take this. So, for example, Outlook, sunny, windy, sorry, sunny, rainy, and overcast. And we have, in the case of sunny, we have humidity, yes or no. Okay, so what we'll be doing, for example, for this particular decision tree that I have created, we'll convert this decision tree into rules. So what will be the rules? For example, Outlook equals to sunny and humidity equals to humidity is equals to yes. The output will be yes. Okay, so this is the first rule that is generated from the given data set. Similarly, other rules can also be generated. For example, Outlook equals to sunny and humidity is equals to no, then the output is no. Okay, these are some of the rules that will be generated. So for each branch that is present in your given decision tree, a rule will be generated. Okay, the first step is clear to everyone. Okay, after creating the rules, what we'll be doing, we'll prune the rules that is present in our particular data, so in this particular decision tree. So for example, this particular rule that we have, will prune this particular rule into two rules. For example, Outlook equals to sunny and yes, the output is yes, and humidity is equals to rainy, sorry, humidity is equals to yes and the output is yes. So what we'll do, for example, we are removing this particular rule and we are trying to check what is the accuracy of the given decision tree. So if I perform the pruning of that particular rule, so after pruning this particular rule, you will check the accuracy of the decision tree on the validation data set. If the accuracy of the decision tree improves after pruning that particular rule, then you will continue with pruning that rule, otherwise you will keep the rule as it is. Is it clear? So is it clear with what we are doing in rule post pruning? Yes, I suppose everyone is clear. I had not discussed this one in the offline batch. So for offline batch, this must be a new topic. So for them, is it clear to them? For students who are present in the offline batch, yes. So this is another method that we have, rule post pruning. Okay. Okay. Okay, yes, I'll repeat. So what we are doing is, in this case, we are converting this particular decision tree into rules. Okay, these are the rules that we have generated using the decision tree. So for each branch, we'll create a rule. So for this particular branch, we have created a rule. This is the rule that we have generated. This is the precondition, and this is the precondition that we have. Okay, this is the precondition. So for each of this branch, we'll create a precondition rule, and after this, what we'll do, we'll prune the rules. Okay, we are pruning the rules instead of what we were doing in previously, we were actually removing the entire subtree and we were replacing that subtree with the help of a leaf node. But in this case, we will prune that particular rule. So for example, outlook equals to sunny and humidity equal to yes. What we are doing is we are removing a particular rule from this particular rule, this given rule. So for example, I am removing humidity equal to yes, and I'm replacing this particular rule as outlook equals to sunny. If the precondition outlook equals to sunny, then the output will be yes. So now what I'll do, I'll check for the decision tree. I'll check whether the new decision tree after pruning that particular rule gives higher accuracy on that validation data set or not. If this particular rule gives higher accuracy in the validation data set, then I'll continue with the pruning operation. Otherwise I'll keep the rule as it is. Is it clear now? Is it clear now? Yes. Okay. So now after this, we'll discuss two other post pruning method that we have. That is cost complexity and pessimistic error pruning. Okay, that two methods that we have. One is cost complexity, which is similar to that of what we are doing in the case of reduced error pruning. Okay, what we were doing in reduced error pruning is we were replacing the subtree with the help of a leaf node, and then we were checking whether after the replacement, if the accuracy of the model has increased. And if the accuracy of the model has increased, then we'll continue with the pruning operation. Otherwise, we will stop the pruning operation. So let us see in the PPT itself. So cost complexity is what? We'll check the cost complexity of the subtree at n, and we'll check the cost complexity of the subtree at n if it were pruned. After pruning, we'll check the cost complexity, and before pruning, we'll check the cost complexity. And if the cost has increased after performing the pruning operation, then we'll not perform the pruning operation. Otherwise, we'll keep the pruning operation. Whenever you are doing a practical implementation of this, there is something called library in Python called CPP. In using which you can perform this particular cost complexity pruning, and in that we have an hyperparameter called alpha. Okay, we have an hyperparameter called alpha. You can also check this particular thing in the scikit-learn library that is present online, scikit-learn manual that is present online, and you can check that they have an hyperparameter alpha. Yeah, so if the alpha initially is 0, alpha initially will be equals to 0. That is, we are not removing any of the leaf node. We are not pruning any of we are not pruning any operation. So if the alpha value increases, then the pruning operation is being performed. And if the alpha value is maximum alpha value, we have only one node present in the after performing the pruning. That is, if the alpha value reaches a maximum value, then it is possible that in your decision tree only one node is present. That is your root node. Okay, that is your root node that is present in your particular decision tree. So we have to choose an optimal value of alpha such that it is providing the minimum cost for that particular after performing the pruning operation on your decision tree. So what it will do, after you perform the CPP, after you use the CPP function, cost complexity pruning function, it will provide you with certain values of alpha and the impurity values, and you can, from that you can choose an optimal value of alpha and perform the pruning of your data set. No, alpha is not cost. No, here alpha is not the cost value. Alpha is actually a value and hyperparameter value. Okay, hyperparameter value. So if you recall, in the case of Ney Bayes classifier, we have an alpha value for smoothing the function, right? In the similar manner, we have an hyperparameter in case of this decision tree in CPP, which actually helps us to identify. So if alpha value is very high, what it is doing is it is pruning, maximum pruning has been performed in your decision tree. Maximum pruning has been performed in your decision tree means, for example, only root node is present now. After removing all the subtrees, only root node is present in your decision tree. That is what it states. Okay. So we'll choose an optimal value of, Priyank, is it clear now? Okay. So we'll choose an optimal value of alpha so that the cost error is minimum, and the decision tree that is generated is now less complex. Okay. So in such a value of alpha will be chosen. So we'll see more whenever we'll be performing the practical implementation of the decision tree. Then at that point of time, we'll see the implementation and we'll check. Okay. In the case of cost complexity. So this one is clear. Now the next one that we have is pessimistic error pruning. Okay. Okay, the cost complexity pruning is used in CART algorithm. So CART algorithm is in the CART algorithm will be using which attribute selection method will be using in the CART algorithm. Yes, Gini index, right? Okay. So next one is pessimistic pruning, in which we'll be utilizing this in the C4.5 algorithm that we have. So we have two types of error. We have optimistic and pessimistic. So you already know what is the meaning of optimistic and pessimistic, right? Optimistic is positive, always positive, a person having always a positive opinion, and pessimistic is you are having negative opinions about certain things, right? Mostly pessimist person or optimist person, you know about this, right? So what has happened? What is an optimistic opinion? What is an optimistic opinion is considering the training error to be your generalization error. Okay, what is a generalization error? Error on the testing data. Okay, so if you are considering that for example, if the training error is if the training error that you have in your data set for your given data set, if you're training a particular data set on a model, for example, decision tree is your model right now. Okay, decision tree is your algorithm on which you are creating a model. So if you are performing the training operation and if you are getting a lower training, if you are getting a higher training error, then it is clear that your model is not performing well, right? Model is not performing well, it is clear. But now if in condition, if we have very low training error, but this low training error cannot be a correct estimate that your model is performing well, yes or no? Maybe the higher training error can also mean that your model is overfitting, right? So in optimistic opinion, if you have lower training error, you are considering that your model is performing well. But in pessimistic opinion, what is the pessimistic opinion? That it is possible that your model is not performing well, it is overfitting your data set. So what we are doing in the pessimistic error pruning is, in the given training error, we are adding a penalty value. Okay, adding in penalty value in your given training error, because we are considering that the training error that we are having is not the optimal error that we have, so we are adding in penalty to increase the error. Is it clear what is so the idea is clear what I'm trying to say right now between the based on this? Is everyone clear with this idea? Yes, right, yes, okay, I'm coming to that. Okay, so so what are we trying to do here is, so in optimistic opinion, optimistic error is what? Considering the training error to be all right, like, okay, the training error is fine. So for example, if the training error is low, we'll consider that the model is performing well. Maybe it is not showing you the actual error that the model is having. So maybe it is showing you the less error. So in that case, what is the problem is overfitting is the problem. So what we are trying to do, we are removing the bias. So in the what is the bias? So here in the PPT it is given that is if the estimate of accuracy or error based on the training set is overly optimistic. Optimistic means what? So it is possible that if the error is low, then we'll consider that the model is performing well. But it is a strongly biased condition that we have. It is a bias that we have. So in order to remove that bias, we are adding in penalty term. That is, we are increasing the error term so that we'll get an updated figure for estimating the error. Are you getting now why we are adding this penalty term in this particular error term? Yes or no? Yes. So is everyone clear with this idea, pessimistic pruning? Yes or no? I am coming to the example of this, but the overall idea about pessimistic pruning is clear or not? Is anyone having any doubt? Okay, I'll proceed with the theory then. So what we are trying to do is we are adding in bias penalty term here. We are adding in penalty here to the error that we are estimating. So before adding the error term, so for example, your error in this particular, so there is a formula that we have in the case of this pessimistic pruning, that is error in that particular tree plus alpha, sorry, consider here omega is the hyperparameter that we are adding. So this hyperparameter is what? This is the penalty that we are adding, right? Penalty into number of leaf upon total number of nodes. Okay, so for example, just consider that, for example, this is a tree that we have. Okay, this is a tree that we have, and for example, before performing the splitting on the node A, we have 10 by 30 error. So these are the total number of instances, and total number of error that we have is 10. Okay, before performing any pruning operation, before performing any splitting operation, this is the error that we have. And mostly the bias term, that is, what is the bias in the case of decision tree is, mostly the subtree will have less error in comparison to the parent tree. Okay, this is a bias that we have. So what is due to this bias, what we are doing, we are creating an overfitting model. Yes or no? Overfitting model will be generated, more and more nodes will be created, so more complex decision tree will be generated. So in order to avoid this, what we are doing is pessimistic pruning. So for example, upon splitting, before splitting, we have 10 by 30 is the error. Just an example that we have 10 by 30 is the error of your model, and after performing the split, we have error is 9 by 30. Okay, 9 by 30 is the error. But now what we'll do, we'll create an updated formula. So for both the cases, we'll update the formula for error calculation. So in case of 10 by 30, your error will be 10 by 30 plus 0.5, sorry, 10 plus 0.5, that is the penalty, into number of leaf nodes. What is the number of leaf node before splitting? We have one leaf node before splitting. Okay, only one node is present, that is A. Upon total number of instances, that is 30. This is the updated error before splitting. Similarly, we have an updated error after splitting, which is 9 plus 0.5 penalty into number of leaf node. How many number of leaf node that we have? 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, these are the total number of leaf node that we have upon total upon 30. So this is your updated error. Okay, so if we see, before splitting, the error was 10 by 30. After splitting, the error was 9 by 30. Okay, now if you see, this error is less in comparison to this, yes or no? 9 by 30 is less than 10 by 30. Now, but after adding the penalty term, this is similar to what we are doing in the case of regularization. If you recall, what we are doing in the case of regularization, we were adding an alpha, we were adding a lambda term in order to make the model less complex, less complex model. Similarly, what we are doing, we are adding a penalty term here to make the model less complex. So what we are estimating, so our bias is actually what, that your subtree generation will create in your subtree, the error will be less. But this isn't bias that we have. To eliminate this bias, we are adding a penalty. So now your new error that you have is 10.5 by 30 for your A before splitting, and after splitting, your error is 11 by 30 after performing the split. So 11 by 30 is now greater than 10.5 by 30, yes or no? So your splitting is not necessary. So we'll pruning the tree. So we'll pruning the tree, that is, we'll go back to before the decision tree before the splitting was performed. Is it clear to everyone what we are doing here? Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. So now, so if you see, so before performing the pruning operation, what was the error that we have? Sorry. Okay. So before adding a penalty term, the error in our decision tree before splitting was 10 by 30. and after performing the split, that is after creating the leaf node. So this is the leaf nodes, 4 leaf nodes that we have created. So this is the data set that I am showing. This is the 4 leaf node that we have created after splitting on attribute A. Okay. So what is the error that we have? 9 by 30. Okay. This is the error that we have. Now I am updating the formula for error. So updating the formula for error, that is I am performing pessimistic pruning. That is I am estimating that this error may not be the true error value. There is a possibility that there is more error in the model, but in case because this to counter the optimistic error review, right? So our new updated formula before splitting is 10 plus 0.5 into number of nodes, number of leaf nodes by total number of instances is 10.5 by 30. And in case of after splitting our condition is 11 by 30. Okay. So now you can see that your error has increased after splitting. Yes or no? Error has increased after splitting. So if your cost is not good after performing the split, if your error is not decreasing after performing the split, that is what you will do. You will perform the pruning operation. Okay. So that is why we'll be performing the pruning operation. That is, we'll eliminate the, we'll remove the subtree and we'll keep the root node as it is. Okay. Is it clear? Is it clear now what we are trying to do? Okay. How increasing the error? So what we are trying to do, if you recall in the case of regularization, what we are trying to do is we were creating a less complex model. Yes or no, Priyank? Less complex model we were trying to create? Yes or no? So here if you relate this particular topic, this particular idea to that particular idea, if you can see that what is the optimistic opinion is, optimistic idea is the whatever error that your model is generating, suppose your error after performing the training operation is very less. Then if you consider that if the training error is very less, then my model is performing pretty good, then it is actually an optimistic opinion, and there is a possibility. You have to be ready for the worst condition. So there is a possibility that your model might not be performing very well, but it is actually overfitting the data. Okay, it is actually what it is doing, it is overfitting the data. So in order to eliminate this process, that is eliminate this overfitting operation, what we are doing is we are adding in penalty term, so that we will create a less complex decision tree. Okay, less complex, that is simpler decision tree. Penalty, why we are adding penalty? We actually want to prune the decision tree, right? So now after adding the penalty, if the error that is increased after performing the splitting operation, if the error is increased after performing the splitting operation, that means that that the splitting is not giving you a good result. Okay, that is your decision tree is actually overfitting your data, right? That is why this error helps you to prune your decision tree, that is create a less complex decision tree. Now is it clear why we are performing this, adding this information, that is penalty term? Okay, so today so overfitting is over till now. So in today's lecture, what we discussed is various pruning operation on your decision tree classifier. So we were going to discuss regression tree as well, but right now we do not have time to discuss regression tree. So we will start with the regression tree in the next lecture. And along with that, we will start with another topic as well, which is ensemble learning. Anybody has any idea ensemble learning? What is ensemble learning? Till now, whatever we discussed in the classroom, is everyone clear with that? Anybody is having any doubt in today's lecture? Yes, anybody having any doubt? Okay. All right. So in the next lecture, what we'll be discussing, we'll start with regression tree and ensemble learning. So we already know what is regression. Regression is actually whenever your model is predicting continuous values. Okay, that is regression problem. So in case of decision tree classifier, we discussed about classification problem where your model was predicting classes, right? Your leaf node were actually mentioning the class value that you have. Now in the case of regression, what your leaf node will be actually having is continuous value. continuous values for that particular tree. So so for example, if we have a particular data set, for example, if you have a virus outbreak and you are having a particular medicine that you are using to eliminate that virus in your body. So if you're increasing, for example, if you have a data set like this, if your data is distributed like this, then you can directly use a linear regression model. Okay, linear regression model to estimate the output of the how much accuracy, so how much decrease in the virus. Okay, based on the dosage you can estimate, right? But if your data is distributed something like this, so let us see the PPT itself. So if your data is distributed something like this, suppose your data is something like this, then what will be your decision tree classifier? How will you create a decision tree? How will you use you cannot use a linear regression model in this case. So instead of that, we'll be creating a regression tree in that case. So we'll discuss further about this in the next lecture about regression tree and ensemble learning. So I'll end this lecture. So we'll see in the next lecture. No, there is no attendance link. I have not created any attendance link today. No issues. I'll mark all of you as present in this particular lecture, but in the next lecture, I'll share the attendance link. Fine. All right. Okay. So I'm ending the meeting now.